The crystalline spires of the Celestial Council Station gleamed against the backdrop of swirling nebulae, a monument to 10,000 years of galactic peace. Within its halls, Elder Quintar's ancient eyes held the weight of millennia as he addressed the assembled delegates. The humans have finally achieved faster-than-light travel. His voice resonated through the chamber like distant thunder. The time of isolation has ended. Murmurs rippled through the diverse assembly. Reptilian saurians hissed softly, their scaled forms shifting uneasily. The ethereal lumina flickered like living starlight, while the blue-skinned Aquarians exchanged worried glances through their gill slits. "Why do we fear them, Elder?" asked Korath, a towering Saurian general whose battle scars told stories of 1,000 conflicts. "They are primitives, barely beyond their own star system." Quintar's expression darkened. "Because, General, humans possess something we have spent eons trying to contain. They love without reason, fight without limits, and die without hesitation, for those they claim as their own. Love makes them stronger, not weaker, and that terrifies even me." Captain Miles Hawthorne adjusted his dress uniform as the human delegation's shuttle approached the massive station. Beside him, Dr. Jenna Reeves checked her xenobiology notes for the 100th time, her auburn hair catching the light from the viewport. "Nervous?" Miles asked, noting how her fingers trembled slightly. "Excited," Jenna corrected, her green eyes sparkling. "We're about to meet species that have existed for thousands of years longer than us. Think of what we could learn." "Just remember the briefing," Miles warned. "We're here as observers. No unnecessary contact, no personal relationships. We can't afford to upset the balance they've maintained." Jenna nodded, but her scientific curiosity was already overriding diplomatic caution. She had spent years studying theoretical xenobiology, and now she would see living, breathing examples of evolution beyond Earth. The docking bay was a marvel of engineering, with gravity fields adapted for dozens of different species. As the human delegation disembarked, Jenna found herself face-to-face with a towering figure that made her breath catch. Korthak Vex stood nearly 7 feet tall, his obsidian scales gleaming under the station's lights. Golden eyes, slit-pupilled and intelligent, met hers with an intensity that made her heart skip. Unlike the other Saurians she had seen in the briefing materials, Korthak wore ceremonial armor that spoke of nobility rather than simple military rank. "Dr. Reeves," he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through her bones. "I am Prince Korthak Vex. I have been assigned as your scientific liaison." When he extended his clawed hand in what was clearly a learned human gesture, Jenna hesitated for only a moment before taking it. The moment their skin touched, something electric passed between them. His scales were surprisingly warm, not cold as she had expected, and his grip was gentle despite his obvious strength. "The pleasure is mine, Your Highness," she managed acutely, aware that their handshake was lasting longer than diplomatically appropriate. Neither of them seemed willing to let go. From across the docking bay, Elder Quintar watched the interaction with growing unease. He had witnessed this moment countless times in his visions, the first spark that would ignite a fire across the galaxy. "So it begins," he whispered to himself. Over the following days, Jenna and Korthak found excuses to spend time together. He showed her the botanical gardens where plants from 100 worlds created impossible beauty. She shared human music, watching in fascination as his predatory features softened when she played classical pieces on her portable device. "Your species creates such beauty," Korthak murmured as they walked through a grove of singing flowers from his homeworld. "Saurians are warriors. We understand strength, honor, conquest. But this, art without purpose except to move the soul, it is foreign to us." "Art is never without purpose," Jenna replied, stopping beside a fountain where bioluminescent water danced in patterns that responded to their presence. "It connects us to something greater than ourselves. It makes us feel less alone in the universe." Korthak's golden eyes studied her face in the ethereal light. "Is that what humans seek? Connection? Isn't that what everyone seeks?" she asked, softly. Without thinking, she reached up to touch one of his smaller scales, marveling at its texture. Korthak went very still, his breathing shallow. "Jenna," he said, her name sounding different in his rumbling voice. "This is dangerous." "I know," she whispered, but she didn't pull her hand away. Their first kiss happened in the observation deck overlooking the station's central core, where the artificial gravity was lighter and stars wheeled overhead in impossible patterns. It was awkward at first, their different physiologies requiring adjustment, but when Korthak cupped her face in his large hands with infinite gentleness, Jenna felt something fundamental shift in her universe. Meanwhile, other connections were forming. Throughout the station, Zayla Nim, an Aquarian healer with skin like polished sapphire, found herself drawn to Captain Hawthorne's quiet strength and tactical mind. Their conversations about military history evolved into long walks through the station's gardens, her webbed fingers eventually finding their way into his calloused hands. But it was Elder Quintar who felt the change most keenly. The psychic emanations from the forming bonds were like ripples in the fabric of space itself, growing stronger each day. "The Council must act," he told his inner circle. "The humans are forming pair bonds with our people. Soon they will fight to protect those bonds." "Perhaps we overestimate the threat," suggested Counselor Vex, Korthak's own mother. "Love can be controlled, contained." Quintar's laugh was bitter. "You think love makes species weaker? I have seen the records of their wars, Vex. Humans who fight for abstract concepts like freedom or justice are formidable, but humans who fight for love, for the life of someone they would die to protect, they become something beyond reason, beyond fear, beyond stopping." As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout the station. On the viewing screens, Saurian warships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons charging. "General Korath has decided to end this before it begins," Quintar said grimly. "He intends to eliminate the human delegation and blame it on an accident." In the botanical gardens, Jenna looked up in alarm as the lights flickered and emergency warnings echoed through the corridors. Korthak's expression had gone deadly serious, his warrior instincts overriding everything else. "My uncle," he snarled. "He fears what we represent." "Korthak, what's happening?" "They mean to kill you," he said simply, then pulled her against his chest with desperate intensity. "I will not allow it." Across the station, similar scenes were playing out. Captain Hawthorne was already moving toward the human shuttle bay when Zila caught his arm. "Miles, there are too many ships. Your weapons cannot match theirs." "Then we'll find another way," he said grimly. "We don't abandon our people." But even as the humans prepared for a hopeless fight, they had no idea that they had already won, something far more powerful than any battle. They had won hearts that would move mountains to protect them, and in doing so, they had planted the seeds of their own legend. Elder Quintar watched the tactical displays with the weight of prophecy on his shoulders. The attack would fail, he knew, not because the humans were stronger or better armed, but because love had made their alien protectors into something the galaxy had never seen before. "And so," he whispered, "the Elders' warning proves true. We should never have let them love us." The first energy blast lit up the darkness of space, and with it, the age of human isolation came to an end. What would follow would reshape the galaxy forever, one heart at a time. The energy blast that lit up space around the Celestial Council station was just the beginning. General Korath's flagship, the Iron Talon, led a formation of 12 Saurian dreadnoughts in what should have been a simple extermination mission. What he encountered instead would become legend. As alarms shrieked through the station's corridors, Damon Cross, the human delegation's tactical specialist, was already moving with deadly precision. His lean frame belied the enhanced reflexes that had made him Earth's most decorated special forces operative. But it wasn't military training that drove him now as he raced through the emergency-lit passages. It was the memory of silver eyes, and a voice like liquid starlight. Nyx Avalon materialized before him as he rounded a corner, her lumina form shifting between solid matter and pure energy. Her species communicated through light patterns, but she had learned human speech just to talk with him during their stolen moments together over the past week. Damon. Her voice shimmered with harmonics no human throat could produce. The council, Chambers. They're trying to separate us, send us to different sectors. Like hell they will. Damon growled, pulling her luminescent form against him. Where their bodies touched, her energy danced across his skin in patterns that spoke of desire beyond words. Stay close to me. In the engineering bay, Tessa Vale worked frantically to override the station's lockdown protocols. Her fingers flew across holographic interfaces with the kind of intuitive understanding that had made her Earth's youngest engineering prodigy. Beside her, Zephyr Kalen's wings were folded tight against his back, his crystalline feathers dulled with worry. The Etherian male was a creature of sky and wind, built for soaring through the upper atmospheres of gas giants. But he had grounded himself here, choosing to stay by Tessa's side as she worked to save both their peoples. Tessa, beloved, Zephyr's voice carried the musical quality of his species. Perhaps we should evacuate. Your safety means more than— Don't you dare, Tessa interrupted, her blue eyes flashing as she rerouted power to the station's defensive grid. I'm not leaving anyone behind, especially not you. Zephyr's avian features softened with an emotion his species had no word for until meeting humans. Love, they called it, though it felt like something far more powerful. Meanwhile, Prince Korthak had shed all pretense of diplomacy. His ceremonial armor lay discarded as he strapped on battle gear with practiced efficiency. Jenna watched from their improvised shelter in the botanical gardens, her heart racing as she saw the predatory grace with which he moved. You're going to fight your own people, she said, not a question, but a statement of fact that still amazed her. They ceased to be my people the moment they threatened you, Korthak replied, his golden eyes burning with an intensity that made her breath catch. I am yours now, Jenna Reeves. In all ways that matter. When he kissed her then, desperate and claiming she tasted the salt of her own tears in something else, something that tasted like forever. I love you, she whispered against his scales, and I would burn the galaxy for you, he replied, meaning every word. Captain Miles Hawthorne stood on the human shuttle's bridge, watching the Saurian fleet close in. The odds were impossible. 12 dreadnoughts against their single diplomatic vessel. It should have been over before it began. But Zalanim's presence beside him changed everything. The Aquarian healer had abandoned her peaceful nature, her sapphire skin now glowing with bioluminescent patterns that spoke of deep emotion. My people's ships are moving to intercept, she reported, her gills fluttering with agitation. They've never fought before, Miles. We're healers, not warriors. Then we'll teach you, Miles said grimly, his tactical mind already adapting. Love makes warriors out of healers, apparently. The first engagement came as Aquarian vessels, delicate as crystal sculptures but armed with sonic weapons, moved between the Saurian fleet and the station. They fought with the desperate fury of beings protecting their newly discovered hearts. General Korath watched from his command throne, confusion replacing confidence. Why do they protect the humans? They gain nothing from this alliance. Because, Uncle, came a voice from behind him. You never understood what humans bring to the galaxy. Korath spun to find Prince Korthak standing in his command center, somehow having bypassed every security measure. But he wasn't alone. Beside him stood the human female Dr. Reeves, her small form radiating a determination that made the massive Saurian general step back. You dare bring her here? Korath snarled. I brought her to show you something, Korthak replied calmly. Show him, beloved. Jenna stepped forward, and despite being surrounded by beings who could crush her without effort, she showed no fear. General Korath, your people have been warriors for millennia. You've conquered worlds, built an empire on strength and honor. But when was the last time any of you fought for something you couldn't live without? We fight for the glory of our people, Korath growled. No, Jenna said softly. You fight because it's what you've always done, But look at your nephew now. Really look at him. Korath's eyes narrowed as he studied Korthak. What he saw made his blood run cold. This wasn't the disciplined prince he had trained from childhood. This was something primal, something that radiated lethal intent from every scale. He's not fighting for glory or honor, Jenna continued. He's fighting for me. And that makes him more dangerous than you've ever been. As if to prove her point, the tactical displays showed something impossible. The ragtag alliance of Aquarians, Lumina, and Etherians wasn't just holding their own against the Saurian fleet. They were winning. Damon Cross had somehow infiltrated 3 different ships, his human adaptability allowing him to interface with alien systems in ways their designers never intended. With Nyx flowing beside him like living light, they moved through the enemy vessels like a force of nature. Tessa Vale had turned the station itself into a weapon, overloading power cores and rerouting energy streams to create localized gravity wells that trapped Saurian fighters. Zephyr's wings carried her between critical systems faster than any of the reptilian crew could follow. Even Captain Hawthorne, working in perfect synchronization with Zayla, had turned their single shuttle into a coordination hub for the improvised fleet. Her healing abilities, reversed and amplified, became sonic weapons that could disable entire ship systems. "This is impossible," Korath whispered, watching his superior fleet being systematically dismantled. "They're civilians, healers, artists, not warriors." "No," Elder Quintar's voice echoed through the command center as his hologram appeared. "They're humans, and those who love them. We tried to warn you, General. We tried to keep them separate." "You knew this would happen?" "I foresaw it," the ancient being replied sadly. "Humans don't just form bonds, Korath. They transform those they love into something new. Something willing to fight impossible odds for a single kiss. To burn down empires for a gentle touch." On the tactical display, another Saurian dreadnought went dark, its crew unable to comprehend opponents who fought with such passionate intensity. "But why?" Korath demanded. "What makes them so different?" Jenna answered, her voice carrying across the command center with quiet conviction. "Because we love without calculation, General. We don't love because it's logical or advantageous. We love because we choose to, and that choice makes us willing to do anything to protect what we've chosen." As if summoned by her words, Korthak moved with liquid grace, disarming 2 guards and placing himself between Jenna and his uncle. "And those who love us discover that they're capable of the same choice." The battle was over within hours. Not because the Saurian fleet was destroyed, but because General Korath found himself looking at tactical displays showing his own crews laying down arms rather than fire on beings fighting for love. "Stand down," he ordered quietly, his voice carrying across all frequencies. "All ships, stand down." In the aftermath, as the various species worked together to repair damage and tend to wounded, Elder Quintar addressed the assembled council. "The issue, age of separation is over," he announced. "The humans have shown us something we had forgotten in our 10,000 years of carefully maintained peace. They have reminded us what it means to fight for something more precious than life itself." Korthak and Jenna stood together on the observation deck where they had first kissed, watching as human and alien crews worked side by side. His massive hand engulfed hers, scales warm against her skin. "Your people will spread across the galaxy now," he said, "and everywhere you go, you'll change us." "Is that such a terrible thing?" she asked, leaning against his armored shoulder. "Terrible? No." His golden eyes reflected the stars beyond the viewport. "Wonderful and terrifying and necessary. You make us remember what we're capable of when we have something worth fighting for." Across the station, similar scenes played out. Damon and Nyx discovered that love could literally make them shine brighter together. Tessa and Zephyr learned that the sky was no longer his limit when he had her dreams to carry him higher. Miles. And Zayla found that healing and warfare could become the same thing when protecting those you love. Elder Quintar watched it all with ancient eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. The warning was never about the humans, he murmured to himself. It was about what they would make us become. The galaxy would never be the same. Where once there had been careful distance and calculated alliances, now there would be bonds that transcended species, love that defied logic, and beings willing to fight impossible odds for nothing more than a promise whispered in the dark. The Elders' warning had been clear: never provoke humans. But they had learned too late that the real danger wasn't in provoking them. It was in loving them, because once you did, you became human too. And humans, as the galaxy was about to discover, were very good at getting what they fought for. Love, it turned out, was the most dangerous weapon of all.